Previously in X-Men. Advance the slide. I can do this. I know I can do this. Here we go. Magneto, master of magnetism, the X-Men's oldest foe, went on trial for acts of terror he committed in his days as a villain, only to have those proceedings interrupted by an attack upon Magneto himself. For better or worse, criminal matters were not resolved, and Magneto went on to become headmaster of the school in Xavier's place. Remember the whole heart attack? Okay, anyway, we'll get back to that. While the X-Men were able to move forward with their former enemy, other heroes are unable to let that pass. I am Jason Lapidus.
I am Chris Sanagan.
And we are Group of Seven Comics. Welcome to episode 152 of our ongoing live stream read-through of the X-Men comics that became classic as we discuss the X-Men versus the Avengers by Roger Stern, Marc Silvestri, and Joe Rubinstein. Cover date of April through July of 1987. Asterisks on those credits. We're going to also add Tom DeFalco and Keith Pollard as we move through. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm doing good. It's very snowy out here, and where I am in this part of Canada. And aside from that, I read all four of these issues on Sunday morning. A friend of mine named Jason Lapidus provided them to me, and they're books. I'll tell you that much. They are some books to read. Lots of things going on. Lots of people, characters. I didn't even know who they were.
I think that's part of the fun of it. There was no poll. I just made an executive decision. At some point, once I saw that Chris was reading those books, I did some thinking, and here's the logic, and you can disagree, but that's why it's fun to have rationale. Essentially, these issues take place around the time we're reading, but if we read 221 tonight, we're into a multi-part kind of momentum moves forwards, and we'll probably not be able to get back to this within the context of this moment in time. But if we tackle it now, we can get through it and move on with the ongoing story that will occur in the next issue of Uncanny X-Men. So it seems like there's a bit of a pause. We could have either read it before that Storm issue or after that Storm and Forge issue. But now seems like a fine time because you have those books in your hand. I have them in my hand, and that's a finest place as any to start with it. So the first time you ever read these was Sunday?
Yes.
The copies that you have were either my brother's or mine. I'm not sure which because I had two sets. And when I
they had a faint hint of Lapidus.
Of Lapidus to them, a faint hint. Well, there's nothing faint about my
Stings
brother's.
the nostrils. Very potent.
Well, I have a set, and you have a set, and both those sets were collected in 1987. And I remember as I was reading through these again, that I really only read the first three issues over and over, and I see why. So I mentioned before about there being an asterisk to the credits, and this is a meaningful thing to me. I see meaning in it. Marc Silvestri, Roger Stern writer, and Marc Silvestri penciler are only on for the first three issues. They are not on for the fourth. And it's not an issue, it's not a matter of sales, and it's not a matter of quality. I think it's twofold, truthfully, if I have to make a guess. But we can talk about that as we go on, because the story has some built-in, interesting micro issues, like micro matter and macro matter. And we'll have to dissect kind of as we go and a little bit at the end. But let's talk for a moment about the history of these two teams. Now, of course, we know it is a classic wrestling trope. It is a classic superhero trope that heroes find each other usually in the heat of a misunderstanding and have to duel it out at first. And this is the first meeting between the Avengers and the X-Men. It occurred in the X-Men issue number 9, guest starring the Mighty Avengers, and this is in the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby moment in time, although Kirby might already be off art duties by now, but that is definitely his handiwork on the cover. Probably, I don't know if I had to guess, Chick Stone on inks, but I didn't look into it. But I just love that wheelchair with the treads
Tank?
for Professor
Wheelchair
X
tank?
with a gun.
Yeah.
You know, don't miss the return of Professor X and wait till you meet Lucifer. Yeah,
Also,
more of that.
I love that they are trapped in the heart of Europe. Like they're just on the continent. It's not like they're trapped in a volcano. They're just in Europe.
Yeah, it is. It's fun, and I love the way those X-Men costumes look. Except for you know, I like the colors when it is that bright blue. It's just as blue as Captain America, same blue,
Well,
and that
and
in yellow.
yeah, and the corner box there I've seen Canadian cartoonist extraordinaire Michael Cho has a few things, that he's done, a lot of covers, a lot of work, but he does like a few X-Men prints from like with those designs, but he's obviously his style a little bit, but they look great. So I'm getting like all kinds of Michael Cho vibes off that, even though this is the original.
Sure.
He's clearly taking that as inspiration, but yeah.
Oh, definitely. And it's fun, you know. Angel is not in the corner box, but there he is, flying across
He's flying
this
across.
way, this way, flying across the title. It's sort of a fun one to have him up there. But yeah, X-Men #9. It's kind of cute to see them battling it out, and then by the time you get to Avengers 53, that again just repeated trope of heroes clashing in the middle. We see this countless times in
Yeah.
comics, including the one we're about to read in a minute. So it's kind of fun to see. And then with Magneto, there's also a long history because back then, this is the before times. This is before, everyone working on comics in the 60s. They're not comic readers as kids. They weren't reading Marvel as children. They would have been reading funny papers. They would have probably been reading Superman and Captain Marvel and Prince Valiant and newspaper strips and comic strips and whatnot and comics, but old stuff, Golden Age stuff. By the time we get to the 70s, we're getting guys working in comics who grew up reading Marvel comics. So the Len Wein kind of that stock of people, including Claremont, and of course by the 80s, like all those guys grew up reading Marvel and DC in the Silver Age. So this is sort of before that. So where I'm going with this is those guys that grew up reading Marvel comics in the Silver Age, who are maybe 13 or whatever it is in the 1960s. Those characters are forever frozen in time, perhaps in their mind. So Doctor Doom is Kirby's Doctor Doom. Magneto is the X-Men villain. There isn't another grand X-Men villain. And I'm putting this out there because some people, like Chris Claremont, have a vision for Magneto, and he's not stuck on what happened in X-Men #1.
Mm-hmm.
He's not coveting that. He's not fixated on continuity from before 1975. He has like a Marvel property that he can kind of do anything he wants with to a degree, and he does this sprawling thing. We're 10, 12 years in to his run on X-Men. And it's not these guys anymore. Like none of these characters are on the team anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a different animal by this point. But some people want the thing that they read when they were kids, and they want to go back to that. Here's an example of Magneto fighting the Avengers. So again, he's cast as a villain in the eyes of a lot of people. Ironically, Magneto does not wear this costume in this issue. By the way, it looks cool in blue instead of purple. By the way, just putting that out there. Yeah. Beautifully drawn by Gil Kane. And Cyclops and Marvel Girl also do not wear these costumes in this issue. He's, as an artist, probably didn't even bother to look at what they were wearing contemporarily. He's like, yeah, I saw them in '64. I'm just going to draw that. And Magneto didn't wear this. He was wearing like an orange Savage Land jumpsuit at this point with the helmet. It was a weird moment in time. I'm going to leave that there. Just to say hi to everybody in the chat for a minute. Hey, Allie, Michael, Massimo, and Richard. How are you guys all doing? I hope everyone is well. Anyone else out there? I'm not sure if you've read this or had a chance to read the X-Men versus the Avengers, or maybe the Avengers versus X-Men crossover in recent years that happened, kind of a monumental Marvel Universe altering thing. This is not that. Just to be clear, this is the 1987 4-issue limited series that kind of is self-contained. And we can discuss why that happens as we get through those things. I have a few more images to show afterward, but we'll save it for then. For now, we're going to move over to the comics cam. Oh my gosh. And see these issues.
Comics cam!
Here on Comics Cam, here on my
Comics
drawing board,
Cam!
we've got these 4 issues. I think I must have read and reread this one many, many times because I think it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love that cover. Like, again, those characters clashing in the middle. It's a lot of fun to see. Did you have any reaction when you saw this? Were you hoping for anything? Any expectations?
I mean, I like the look of it. There's a few there. I mean, okay, so coming to this kind of cold, I was like, okay, well, I want to see some Rogue She-Hulk throw down, some power versus power.
Yeah.
I don't care much or know much about Black Knight. I'm hoping Wolverine just goes through him.
Right.
Cap and Magneto, sure. And then there's got this Iron Man-esque person who is not that person, and I didn't know who that was coming into as the third wheel there.
Sure. So for me, I was reading X-Men at the time. I was reading Avengers at the time. So these are my Avengers, which is ridiculous to say. I was reading, Roger Stern had a well-known run on Avengers that it felt really popular to me because, looking at things on the spinner rack, whatever there are a lot of copies of or whatever a lot of my friends or kids I know are buying, that's going to be, the thing that you think is popular. And the style that the Avengers were drawn in was drawn by John Buscema, who Silvestri is highly influenced by. So a lot of like the beauty of Silvestri's art comes from his love of certain styles like John Buscema. So I also was a Marvel Universe official handbook kind of kid.
Yeah.
So I knew Crimson Dynamo just by sight. But this Magneto costume, oh my God. Not one of the most beloved ones. It's not that ridiculous M1, but it's something he wears very soon afterward. Does
Cap want to take a metallic shield into battle against the Master of Magnetism?
Listen.
I
don't think.
Listen.
I don't think the cover was put together in a way that was like.
Does Black Knight want to take in a metal sword against the Master of Magnetism?
These work. These are fun and work.
Yeah.
This is more like older characters that have some sort of ideal that they're striving toward, and then we have to tack on something else happening there. I thought it was pretty cool. I just want to compare for a minute when we can.
Sure.
So this is printed on a different kind of paper.
Yes, I noticed.
And you'll notice right away that blue is like super blue.
Yeah.
And that red is super red. If we were to compare just quickly with newsprint and how newsprint treats the colors differently, it absorbs more of it. So even when you have, let's say, this is 100% yellow ink, that is 100% yellow ink. And I don't know how well that shows up on camera. To me, that is very different. And the colorists who work, especially that blue and that red, the colorists who work on these books at this moment in time, it's Christy Scheel, who also known as Max Scheel. They're not really quite calibrated for this yet. They are definitely in the sweet spot, especially Glynis Oliver on X-Men. It is so calibrated for this newsprint stuff.
So what's the paper quality then of the Avengers X-Men book? What's the difference? If this one's newsprint, what's the other one?
Come on, man! Don't make me learn paper names.
Where's Ricky Lima when you need him?
Where is Ricky Lima or anyone in the chat who knows? Sometimes people, I know there was something called Baxter paper. It was a kind of paper at that time period. The kinds of people who that I know or that you and I know that would know this answer would be guys like Robert. He's dropped in some paper wisdom in the past. Just to now also compare I acquired this one today. This is a treasury with the Hulk in it, and you want to see like newsprint.
Wow.
That's 100% red. Okay. It's so mellow. It's so beautiful, actually.
Muted, yeah.
That's 100% red.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous, and that's 100% blue in the background. but it's just a very, very subtle thing. Colors blend together really, really nicely here. Like on the Hulk, for instance, there's like this lighter green and a darker green, and it actually looks like shading, and they kind of almost blend together. When you do that on this other paper, the juxtaposition between these blues on Captain America really stand out. They don't blend as nicely. Anyway, we also need to introduce this guy.
Yeah, we do.
I think most people who know, MCU and let's just say X-Men comics generally would not have come across this amazing character that nobody likes like me. His name is Dr. Druid, here referred to as Dr. Anthony Druid, Master of the Unknown. And that sounds like an awesome thing to be.
Yeah.
You got, the mysticism and mystery of the Druids in his name.
Sure.
Master of the Unknown, like that's perfect. You and I like the unknown and the unbelievable.
We do.
Check out Peregrines, by the way, by Group of Seven Comics. But this character does not evoke mastery of the unknown. He just looks like a guy in a red jumpsuit who's got a bed sheet that he runs around with.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And like a Doctor Strange, right? Like that's without having Doctor Strange on the team, right? That's
yes. He feels like a very watered down Doctor Strange, even to the point where he doesn't even get a full head of hair.
No. So how? So
I want to.
How long was he on the team? Like, was he on the team in the 80s?
Oh, man. At the end of the 80s, yeah.
Where did he
go? Don't even remember. It's unknown.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm going to choke. He's kind of, I don't know. He's remembered fondly by a lot of people for being one of the reasons they don't care about the Avengers. Like, he doesn't look good on the brand of Avengers. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Right. All right.
I'm really excited for him to be a focal character in the next two Avengers movies, by the way.
Yes, I would love it. I think he'd actually be great if you
it was Dr. Druid all along.
Right.
He's a medical man, obviously. Doctor.
Okay. So Roger Stern writing, who has a long history of great runs on Spider-Man and on Avengers, including that one where the Masters of Evil come. So he's the Avengers writer coming on to this project.
Gotcha.
Silvestri, like we talked about last week, is relatively new at Marvel, a younger guy who is already doing good work. Rubinstein is a house inker. We've seen him specifically on the Wolverine limited series. He plays that house style, and your mileage with him may vary. And he is an inker whose work I do not admire, not because he's not good at his craft. Of course he is. I just find he overpowers a lot of the pencilers he works with. So, for instance, if you look at the Wolverine limited series and you look at Wolverine Daredevil, the Frank Miller Wolverine limited series and Frank Miller Daredevil, Klaus Janson is like a magic thing that works with Frank. Like they have a lot of synchronicity at the time, and then Rubinstein just takes so much life out of Miller's pencils on that Wolverine series, and I would love to see it re-inked, but of course that will never happen. So I don't really like Joe Rubinstein. Also, I've heard him take credit for things that he didn't.
Right? Isn't the Wolverine mini series his idea? No,
something like that.
Anyway,
good Kmart plug here. So the Avengers show up in the Quinjet, and they are an officially sanctioned team, right? So Captain America can kind of like flex his credentials and get in there.
Like a global response team.
An American one.
An American response team, okay.
Yes, if they go anywhere else, they're going to have to announce their presence and
talk to local authorities and such.
Get hold of yourself, man. He's that kind of he's portrayed very much. This is the version of Captain America that doesn't interest me in 1987 and didn't interest me after that either. It took, obviously the movies made a huge difference, but also the Winter Soldier run in the comics really did it for me. But this is who that embodies him perfectly. The Sentinel of Liberty. And Silvestri just kills it with having him. How many heads tall is that human being? 12. You know what I mean? So he's leaning into a certain style that is dynamic and gonna definitely lead into the 90s for sure. But they have some sort of issue. There's asteroid pieces coming into Earth, so their meteorites are coming down from an asteroid. Dr. Druid is using technology and his psychic powers to convince everyone with hypnosis to leave the area because disaster.
They're coming. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is where, like, I think Silvestri shines. Like, these action lines, you can feel the speed of those meteorites. You can feel the speed of Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I actually thought generally, I thought Silvestri's work on the issues that is great. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah.
So we get sort of that run of the mill. What do they call it when you're coming in the middle of the action? So this disaster is coming. The Avengers are that response team. There's Thor in his armor. If you haven't ever seen this Thor armor, it is introduced in the Simonson run, and just a quick backstory. As payment, or as I guess payment for Thor taking souls out of the land of the dead. Hela curses him with being unable to heal from any wound and without ever finding like solace in his own death. So every time he gets wounded, it just stays, and he's feeling very, very frail. So he armors up for a while.
Oh, okay then.
And I would love an action figure of this. It's an inspired design, but that's Simonson having some fun. But I love these like wide-legged Thor riding a meteor, like so good, so cool. Anyway, I don't want to get too bogged down because there are 4 issues of this, and there's a lot of fun to be had. We get Jen Walters, flying the Quinjet, and Dane Whitman, the Black Knight. He's their tech guy, like they're.
I picked up on that. He's like their science guy, right?
He is, although he has ties to King Arthur and Merlin.
Not Dr. Druid.
I mean, Dr. Druid could be a Merlin,
I mean, you think that would be the obvious connection, but yeah.
Sure, and they have some sort of like mentor-mentee dynamic. That would be kind of fun. But anyway, we know that actor, the character, by the way, he does an appearance in the Eternals. He's played by the guy who plays Jon Snow on Game of Thrones.
Played by that guy whose name we don't know, but he's in that.
I'm
Game of Thrones.
Getting old enough. I don't need to name every actor like I did when I was 25. Okay. Anyway, someone in the chat will throw his name out there. You know who I mean. But he has a bit of a nerd quality to him in that movie, where he's academic,
right,
and also has this sort of heritage with the ebony blade. Anyway, their ship's going down. We get all this stuff. She can travel at the speed of light because she's made of pure energy, so she can get ahead of the issue. Like, just so good. But how does that yellow pop, right? Like, this is just the colors are so intense with these kinds of comics. Anyway, they crash land, and I love this kind of stuff. She's totally fine, of course, but she's holding the throttle, or is it a yoke?
Oh, I don't know.
She's holding the steering wheel of the Quinjet, and poor Dane Whitman is coming out ready to throw up and, not doing so well. Anyway, they quickly discover that there's something odd about the pieces of asteroid that came down. Of course, once they enter the atmosphere, they're called meteoroid or meteorite or meteor. And they discover, as he takes a good chop at it, that the pieces are highly magnetized. And they see that there's metal on the inside. So they're all... right?
4 question marks. I love it.
So, on to the Soviet Union. It is a yoke, says Chuck. Yeah, Kit Harington. Everyone's telling me in the chat. Thank you. And Chuck also adds, hello, Chuck, by the way, in medio res, which is like in the middle of the action. We're getting in a rail yard. We're being introduced to what are now known, I believe, as the Winter Guard.
Right.
So we have Dark Star, Ursa Major. That guy.
Vanguard.
And a green Crimson Dynamo, which is for any Iron Man fans or, even Silver Age.
Crimson Dynamo.
He's Titanium Man.
Titanium Man.
Because, you need 2 of those.
You do. Well,
But at this point, they're called the Soviet Super Soldiers.
Right.
And, they were, I call them the USSR's Alpha Flight.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
So Vanguard has his hammer and sickle.
Yep.
And, they're always talking about comrade. It's fun because, the Russian branch of the Marvel Universe really gets fleshed out in the 90s when you add characters like Omega Red and, put Colossus back into that.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a really amazing team if you add Colossus and Omega Red. Quite a dynamic. Anyway, they've got their thing that they're dealing with. And Darkstar has, energy powers where she can make force fields and such out of dark energy. They're all doing their rescues. Ursa Major looks awesome.
That's pretty cool. Does, actually.
And then Crimson Dynamo shows up to help, and they're like, no, you're not one of ours. You're KGB.
KGB.
But, there's a few parts where they say, here, they speak regularly. Like, he seems sincere. And then the bear goes like, it is KGB trick.
KGB.
So he doesn't even speak in proper Russian.
He doesn't.
He speaks with an American stereotype of a Russian syntax.
Yeah.
It is KGB trick. But I love it. Also, there's this little guy named Gremlin who lives inside Titanium Man. That's so cute. And that is, I'm going to say, Chekhov's Gremlin.
Chekhov's Gremlin.
Because it's going to come back later in the series that there is a little dude inside of this suit of armor. And look how beautifully he's drawn. Oh my God, Chekhov's Gremlin. Wingerloo says, this miniseries solidified my love of Titanium Man and Crimson Dynamo. Yeah, they are pretty awesome. And I guess they have that fun of, like, you can always update those armors whenever a new artist comes along. And now we get to introduce the third team. The X-Men are on vacation. And I've been on vacation with the people. The idea that we're all going to stand around on one dock and do different things. Like, if one of us wants to dance, really, like, the one who wants to be quiet by himself is not going he's not going to stand there. And Wolverine the loner on the end, drinking his beer at the end of the dock. But I find that kind of a funny, forced dynamic. But one thing I do want to point out is, like, I'm going to say this is the beginning of the Marvel swimsuit issues. What did you say, Jason?
What did you say, Jason?
Did you know there was a thing where they used to do swimsuit issues?
I think I've seen covers and things.
Yeah, a certain group of artists who had a particular skill set to draw women in bathing suits in an appealing way for, I guess, young people in the 90s. They would do that. And Silvestri is one of the first guys to really, I would say, sexualize the X-Men in a 90s kind of way, even though it's 1987. We've seen them all sexualized to a degree before.
Sure.
But these bathing suits seem smaller than ever.
Right.
And maybe I'm an old man for saying that, but it feels like this version of them we have not really seen before, especially not all together. The X-Men as a group of babes.
Right.
I'm using that term ironically. I think this is one of the first times we've ever seen that. I don't know. What do you think? Yes? No?
Well, I mean, it might be the first time, just because I don't have the context for it. But
have you?
They're definitely
we've read.
Yeah, we haven't seen. I mean, we've seen a little bit of, but this is I mean, and they're all like, even like Wolverine there looks kind of oiled up, right?
Okay.
Havoc looks like crazy. Yeah, he's all jacked.
Yeah.
Like
Wingerloo says there's swimsuit balance with Logan and Havoc.
Yeah, but they all look like they're all peak physical form of something.
I'm gonna just bring this close. Do you see with Rogue's hair, for instance?
Yeah.
This is where having this kind of color really doesn't do any favors, because the person who is cutting out this color and placing it, because it's cutouts at this point. Like, that's how these get done, is they have to be kind of cut out and made ready for photographing. they don't go with the strands of hair. They just go with like these clumps because they don't have time for details.
Mm-hmm.
So Rogue's hair in this issue is particularly bad all the time. Looks awful.
But that
I like this.
cannonball panel has so much energy in it. I can feel that her jumping into that cannonball. That's great. That's really great.
Yeah, for sure. Oh no! Don't tell me I'm not zooming in for that. Come on. Storm's not topless, that's for sure, and she would have been in a John Byrne comic.
That's a very good point.
And how is that, man? Like that is awesome havoc.
So I had a question about this. So
shoot,
because he talks about it's like I think it mentioned something. Alex Summers has been accumulating cosmic radiation for the past 3 days and just needs to let it out. So does he like is he constantly is a character constantly absorbing cosmic radiation and like kind of like needs to eject it?
No, gross. I think
through whatever means possible. you want to be gross, but like, is that like I thought maybe he just kind of like had energy manipulation powers, but is he kind of constantly absorbing it?
According to this, yes, but like I often say, it just depends what the writer wants to do.
Right. Okay.
So if a writer wants to ignore that for convenience, they're just going to ignore it. And if a writer wants to focus on it,
I kind of like the idea that he actually has to maybe transfer into some other kind of energy that, or he'll like
sure
or something, right?
Sure, and we see that in all sorts of modern stuff. I'm thinking of in the Suicide Squad.
That's where I was going with the polka dot man, right? Like he has to get it out or it'll take over. Yeah,
it adds that Marvel that Stan Lee problem that the character has to deal with. That makes it a little uncomfortable. I'm stuck in the middle of science class and I have to go unload this energy.
I do unload it.
Yeah, definitely. And Michael says, I think his costume is supposed to help and control it. Right. And Chuck says his original story in the old X-Men is about him being used as a battery for the living Pharaoh. That's right. Okay. And the costume is supposed to help him control those powers.
Gotcha.
So this one doesn't even look like a Silvestri drawing to me. I feel like that. I bet you it was very loose, and old Rubinstein did what he wanted to do. But Storm's awesome. But like it's these poses where he's really good at just having the characters a little off balance, creating just really good standing poses. They have a lot of dynamics to them. I love this Wolverine. But the X-Men are basically figuring out what they're going to do with their lives as this is all. They're reflecting, trying to have a little bit of fun when they start to hear the noise about what's happening. And Storm is reflecting on like not having powers, but Thor has those kinds of powers. Mm-hmm. And then Magneto hears that those pieces of asteroid are coming down. And I love his pose. It is so pensive and just a very, very thoughtful pose. And just also like going up the hill this way, coming down the hill this way. Mm-hmm. Just great drawing from Silvestri. He's really, his figure work is top notch.
Yeah.
Really easy to read. And so he's like, hey, is this something from my criminal past? But look who's been paying attention.
That's right.
Wolverine sees, hey, buddy, light up that smoke. Something's going down. So he sounds the alarm, calls the X-Men. He's like, we got to go do a thing. Magneto is, he's gone. This is a problem. We need to go deal with it. I got my costume on. What are y'all doing in bathing suits?
Right.
And so they're now bringing the reader up to speed on how Asteroid M, Magneto's old home base, we would have come across it in, of course, Pride of the X-Men, the TV pilot, and some of their cartoons as well, Asteroid M. Of course, in X-Men 97.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So the Asteroid M, Maggie's old orbital fortress, I thought had been smashed to bits. And that's by Warlock when he was coming to Earth. So Wolverine says, evidently not all of it. What's there for him to deal with? But they got to figure it out. Is this going to cause a problem? Yes, it is. Anyway, more talking. The Avengers have their meeting. She looks good all the time, man. We got the Marvel Legends of this version, by the way, last year, and it is such a great figure. And she is that bright green in toy form. So good.
Oh, that's cool.
We just need that Thor, that Dr. Druid.
That Dr. Druid. Is there a Marvel Legend Dr. Druid?
No, if there was, I would feel ridiculous as I bought it, but I would be so happy to finally have one. But he would need a soft goods cape. Like he's wearing a cloak with sleeves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could do that in plastic and have it be really effective, like a Jedi cloak. When those are really tough to do in Black Series too. They don't fold nicely. They're recounting some of their encounters with Magneto and some of
Yeah.
the villain version of him. And we should talk about this too, because not only, of course, they've all had their tussles with him. Um, we know that he's had issues taking over the rocket base, that he's destroyed a Russian submarine.
Mhm.
He's committed really heinous crimes, but he also got reverted back to childhood and had a bit of a rebirth, and then an awakening about 75 issues ago. And he has gone on this path of redemption. So in some ways, he's not biologically the same man that he was when he committed some of these crimes. In other ways, character-wise, he is a great distance from being the man that he was back in those days. But of course, these heroes and readers have long memories. And then to add to that, we did, of course, get the trial of Magneto 21 issues ago. And
Mhm.
I had to go back and reread because, Chris, do you remember how the trial ended?
Only in X-Men '97.
Well, what happened?
He takes the judges up into the sky, and then while he's there, he demonstrates that he could end them, but he chooses a nobler path inspired by the departure of his dear friend Charles Xavier, and says, "No, I will work to make sure that I'm not that person anymore."
Okay, good. And I think that spiritually is what happened in the comics too, but
Okay.
definitely not by rote. So in the comics, they're in the trial, things are not going well, they're attacked by Fenris, they have to, fight back, they survive that battle, and Xavier has his heart attack and essentially dies and goes off to space heaven,
Right.
to have his space afterlife.
Like Poochie.
Um, like Poochie, like Lilandra, with Lilandra, he goes off and on a grassy garden somewhere, he promises Charles that he will take over the school, but there is no resolution with the courts.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have that moment where he talks to the judges and says, "I'm a different man. Um,
Right.
I'm going to spend my time repenting. Look, I could destroy you. I choose not to." So that
Right.
doesn't happen in the comics, and it's a real weird dangling thread.
Like a judge.
Michael,
A judge doesn't say, this court is adjourned until we can conveniently come back together again.
sure, and we're going to leave you in the custody of the X-Men.
Exactly.
Michael says, convenient. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are not in this Avengers lineup. Yeah, I think it is convenient from one point of view, but at the same time, Scarlet Witch is on the West Coast Avengers, I think, at this point, or she's living in the West Coast. But Quicksilver is not in the Avengers comic at all. I think he's at maybe AOL at this moment in time. He's definitely not on the Brotherhood, which is known as Freedom Force at the moment.
Right.
Maybe someone else in the chat can remember where is Pietro in 1987?
In 1987.
I think this is great though.
Mm-hmm.
Magneto as villain, and like I said before, I think this is where Magneto is in the eyes of a lot of comic book creators at this time and older readers. But Claremont really wants to do something with him. Anyway, Magneto has gone to go find pieces of Asteroid M, and because she can travel so fast and she can, sense different radiations and energies, she tracked them no problem. And it just goes to escalate into eventually a physical fight. He makes a move on her, and she's hologram, right? Because she's made of light. And Thor shows up, and now, quickly, he's outmatched from a certain point of view. If he doesn't want to get too hostile, other than what he tried there, I don't think he wants to go full Magneto, right? And quickly, Dr. Druid.
Thor's only wearing metal.
He could kill Thor at this moment.
He could kill Thor so quickly.
He could destroy Thor and leave him in absolute agony so fast.
So fast.
But it's kind of, Dr. Druid just takes a different approach. He's like, yeah, relax, dude. We're We're going to put you in these manacles. But oh, no. Real wrong, Avenger.
Nice.
Let him go. Love it.
Those
He's in our custody.
Like those poses of the X-Men, like back off.
Yeah.
Is good. I like it.
Yeah, they're little. And then you get, again, a gem. Like, this is peak Wolverine in comics at this moment in time. It's a great drawing. And he's like, we're getting more company. Like, because Wolverine can smell them flying in from around the other side of the mountain. Okay, sure, they're downwind. I'll go with it. That's fine. But, he senses it. He smells it. And here comes the Soviet super soldiers. And they're going to debate, okay, who's got him? He's in our custody. No. He committed bigger war crimes. And, he killed more of our people. X-Men in the middle. Got these two parties going. But we're going to take him. And well, She-Hulk's like, I got this. Don't you worry. And they apply all their powers in the same moment. What are we going to do?
What is going to happen?
Read issue 2. That's what we're going to do. So I'm putting a thought out there. I messaged you earlier today, and I threw a thought out there that this actually feels to me spiritually more like a bigger inspiration in terms of themes
right.
for the movie Captain America Civil War, where you have a character who has a really, really significant criminal past, who is on side kind of in the care of heroes who we just have to trust their word. But then there's people who, loyal with this former villain. And then you have a group that is like, no, we're going to follow the letter of the law. And they're going to go, you're going to have a trial, even though it might not work out. And you have like third party coming in to also get a piece of him. I feel like in this, Magneto is Bucky. And the X-Men are Cap's team. And the Avengers are Iron Man's team. And like, there's a lot of that. Is he going to be a good guy or bad guy? Here, Bucky gets a chance to do right or wrong. Is he going to kill? Is he not going to kill? It's pretty exciting. I got to show you something, though. You ready?
Of course.
Take a look at, I hope it's next. Look at that.
Ooh.
That is the unused cover for issue 2.
Oh.
Supposedly. This was found in like a Spanish magazine, a poster magazine.
Okay.
But this is Marc Silvestri. This is very clearly like that moment with all those kinds of characters. And Magneto's pose is what we have in this issue. But I think it was rejected from editorial because it was too similar probably to issue 1.
Yeah.
But how beautiful is that?
No, it's good.
Sometimes stuff is good, but it just needs to be.
Sometimes stuff is good.
Well, it's really, even the angle of his arms is reflective of what was happening on that last one. But it's too bad. Like, this is, sure, as a set of 4, this makes a better cover. But I much more enjoy the other one. Anyway.
I like that helmet, though, in the middle.
Yeah.
You're not seeing the face. That's good. I like that.
Quick recap for those who missed the first issue.
Yeah.
And here they are, and you get, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How come every comic with action people doesn't do this? Because it just makes the most fun. I bet you this was a joy to draw, too.
Yeah.
Do you know that I don't own the original to this?
You don't? What's
No, neither do you. But I did find it online. I'll show it to you in a bit.
Yes.
It looks like this, but in pen.
I want to see everyone. There's so many like cool things happening, and then Ursa Major and Dr. Drew are gonna go at it.
Storm.
I want to see that guy get in the head of that bear.
Sure. I bet you like Storm could have leapt under.
Of course.
Just whatever.
Of course.
And what's Rogue doing?
Who knows? Powerhouse.
She's
what are you
standing
doing?
there. She's taking the Spider-Man on the cover of his first appearance in the black suit pose. With her hands out. But I love this stuff. It's so good. And I really like that She-Hulk is like an important visual part of the Avengers dynamic. Like, she is front and center. And for whatever reason, this like giant Amazon green woman is so appealing to look at. She just, it looks great in comics. And that purple suit, I'm a big fan.
That color combo does wonders, right? Yeah.
So we get the Ashmaz. We get, Captain Marvel basically zapping through Crimson Dynamo.
Yeah.
He's all yours, Captain America. And he comes in for, as if Claremont wrote this, he would have called this the coup de grace.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And, he's done a movie. Avenger, what is he talking about? Because she knows he's not really there. He was an illusion. And he says that he is able to manipulate the vines. Such is the power of
Bitten by vines.
Yep. And everything goes, Rogue takes off with Magneto as planned. Wolverine wants to fight. I feel like this version of Storm is not written as strong as Claremont writes her.
Right.
She's not as direct. Wolverine, no, Rogue has the right idea. I think she would have been tougher on him. Like, follow now, whatever. She would have had a line that was
don't make me kiss you.
Sterner with him.
Exactly.
But anyway, the X-Men run and they decide that maybe they should stop fighting and get Magneto. And they escape thanks to Dazzler with a blinding light.
Yeah, that's a cool maneuver. Yeah. Anyway.
I love this. This reminds me of the Return of the Jedi on the bike, the speeder bikes on Endor, going through the forest. And she's like, yeah, we don't really want to fight you guys, but word to the wise, you better surrender. And she just bounced back.
So one of the things that caught me about reading these first couple issues, and kind of this might be the first comic that I've read Captain Marvel in, like this version of Captain Marvel in, and she is so powerful.
Yeah.
Like they give her the ability to punch asteroids out of the orbit faster than the speed of light. She dismantles all electronic systems. It feels overpowered. Like it feels like what is this person even doing on this team?
If you think this is overpowered, wait till you watch the Carol Danvers version in Endgame, where she destroys the entire Thanos army and Thanos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
powerful character.
So
challenging for a writer because you have to depower them to make the story interesting. So here's this thing I was saying with Thor, right?
Yeah.
Titanium Man grabs his arm and just gives it a squeeze, and he's like, "Blah!" He can't handle it.
Yeah.
Poor guy. But then he's suddenly weakened, and Thor takes him out, and he's like, "Oh, his weakness was your doing? Then there is no glory in this victory. Better to have fallen with honor." Exactly. So he only wants to win if he did it himself. What a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger cause, man. Anyway, the schmoz continues. We get all the things happening. All the fighting.
Black Knight seems pretty useless.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, it wasn't even Black Knight, dude. It was an illusion.
I know. Who was it?
He did
Dr. Druid.
He did it again.
I
love it.
Yeah.
I like the idea that he just keeps creeping up behind people and messing with their heads. Anyway, the X-Men back on the jet, and he wants to go. He still wants to pursue this, and obviously, Havoc wants no part of it. He's starting to lose control a little bit there.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "No, I remember you're a real dick."
Don't you remember
those days are behind me, Wolverine.
I would never try to take your medal against you ever again.
But he insists on this, right? He's like, "I'll do it by myself."
Yeah.
And they're going to let him go on his own for now. Meanwhile, Darkstar, still controlling her own team, has no idea, and they just leave him there. Not very funny. I mean, not very kind, pardon me.
And her brother is Vanguard, right?
Yeah. So remember I said they were Russia's Alpha Flight?
Yeah.
Like North Star.
Exactly.
And Aurora. Jason Jose says, Carol as binary was insanely powerful. Yeah, I think that's like the other Claremontism. Like Phoenix is insanely powerful.
Right.
He just... These open-ended god characters where they don't have a ceiling. Anyway, he goes, raises Asteroid M right out of the body of water, or at least whatever's left of it. And the X-Men are on their way. And yeah, there's Captain Marvel. Remember her name, by the way? Like what her human name is?
Is it Photon?
Well, that's just a superhero name.
Oh, Monica Rambeau?
There you go, Monica Rambeau.
Rambo.
Yep, there she is. So she's tracking the X-Men as they
That's
fly.
what I mean. She's like this she's super powerful. I'm just like, this seems...
She's got flash powers. Like she can be everywhere kind of at one time.
Right.
Now, I like all this. And this is good. They're going. See who's there? Wolverine, Rogue, Havoc, Captain Marvel, Dazzler, and Storm.
That's right.
Just keeping track. That's all. And he's going to use a doohickey to find Magneto. I like this.
Yeah.
How it's like askew. Very cool. And he finds this moment.
I like that.
A version of his old costume.
Yeah.
Things that he left behind. And this to me is like a great moment.
Yeah.
Like, let's just try it on. This is to me what the series is about. And I want to just talk about our buddy Hellboy for a minute.
Okay.
Character born to be evil, constantly through his spoilers, through his epic, the epic of Hellboy. He is tempted to follow his destiny, his fate to be the destroyer or the bringer of Ragnarok, the destroyer of the world.
Right.
So he's constantly tempted and always refuses it. And it's that refusal that is part of what makes him a hero, is that he chooses to be on the side of the angels, even though following the path of the devil or the demon would lead to ultimate power for him. And it's that refusal of that power, which is one, like I said, one of the signs of his heroism.
Mm-hmm.
This is Magneto's moment. He can go back to his evil ways. He can put back on this costume. You know, he can he'll turn at any time. But if he's truly going to be redeemed as a hero, he has to refuse. And I like the symbolism of him dipping a toe in his evil way by taking that helmet back.
Mm-hmm.
Visually, it's telling you that there is a moment here, like we need to pause, and he is reflecting. I think that's good.
It's also a better costume.
Oh, it's infinitely better. The helmet does a lot, though.
Yeah.
The helmet and cape.
A lot of heavy lifting there. Yeah.
There you go. Hold it right there, Magneto. We know you're evil, right? You got your helmet on, evil man. And they start the fight again, so the fight continues. And you get some cool stuff. Thor doing his spinning hammer.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool looking pose from Dane where he's chopping away pieces and Cap is blocking and Druid is druiding. But he's got his force fields up. But she can go through. Zoop,
right.
Knocks him out. Cool. Cool. X-Men arrive. Beautiful.
Yeah.
The body movement there is fantastic, and they go rolling down the hill into the water. Havoc is unloading. He's white.
Yeah.
Like he's just consumed with it. You get also like this great pose of Wolverine kind of flying in and crossing blades, both unbreakable. So now it actually matters what happens with the choices they make with how they use their weapons. It's not just about cutting through everything. And they have, each get their licks in. One this way, one that way. It's good stuff. Easy to read action. Look how yellow that is. Come on, man. Oh my God. Anyway, this paper. Ugh. But again, just more of this blocking and characters using their abilities, and then like, no. Guys, the island's going to self-destruct. It's full of charges. You got to get out of here. Everyone stop. And so, again, look at this. How bright. Did you ever read Gru the Wanderer?
I never have.
I think you and I would both really enjoy it.
Okay.
Together, holding hands.
Yeah.
Awesome drawing.
Totally.
Blow up. Silvestri's really good. He should draw X-Men. So Magneto's put up the force field, again, really well illustrated here. That the chaos outside of it, with the explosion, everyone's protected inside. You get the sense that things are unstable. Just drawing that thing askew on an angle does a lot to tell you that things are not stable even within. Magneto's doing everything he can to resolve the matter. And the X-Men escape again. And here's a misprint. Clearly, the voice is coming from Monica Rambeau.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've ever saved a life in the water, you know that pose, Cap America, Steve Rogers is pulling her.
Right.
But she says, I need help here. The blast knocked Cap out. That's big. And She-Hulk says, right with you, CM, meaning Captain Marvel. That's a misprint. Like, this arrow should have gone.
Yeah.
And that should have been the other way. Anyway, X-Men are gone. What are we going to do? And this time, Magneto's there, looking all grim. But look who's on the ship.
The secret weapon.
The best character in the book.
That's right.
And just to make sure that we got enough Claremont in here, look at all those Werbalins. Pretty Claremonty.
Very Claremonty.
Yeah. And Logan is puffing on that cigar. Good stuff. You ever get a case of this?
I remember Ugly Balls. Yeah.
Case of the Ugly Balls. Now, you like that?
That's good cover.
Part of me wishes it was the opposite. That it was Captain America underwater being choked out and Wolverine about to put his claws in Titanium Man's back.
That'd be
I don't know.
No,
yeah, but this is good.
Yeah, solid.
It's good cover. Good action. The Soviets strike back. And it's hard to tell, but these are different reds. That is the red that has yellow in it, which is like our version of red, and that's just magenta.
Mm-hmm.
But they want to have the word Soviet in like communist Russian red.
Rusky red, it's called. It's actually a Crayola. It's part of the 64 crayons in a Crayola.
Hey, speaking of things Russian,
sure.
Did you ever have a CCCP jersey?
Like a hockey?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Did I ever see you wearing one?
Did you? I mean, there's a video on YouTube of our musical performance of the hockey tournament where it's a couple guys wearing where we redid the Summit series from 1972. Yeah. And okay. I'm wearing I have I have a fur Soviet winter hat that my father-in-law brought back from Siberia when he was there for about a year. Which, by the way, sorry, I don't mean to sidetrack, but I
did this to you.
I was talking to him over the holidays because we were visiting. I was down in Tennessee, and I was like, "Remind me, how long were you in Siberia? Like 3 years?" He's like, 6 months. I was like, "Felt like 3 years." I don't know why. Yeah. Anyway, 6 months. I'm like,
wild.
Really? 6 months? Huh? Thought it was 3 years. Yeah, there you go.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
crazy.
So there is video of you. Yeah, were you at Lee's Palace?
Lee's Palace in Toronto. Yeah.
There you go. I remember.
It is the first and only time I've been on the stage, the performing stage at Lee's Palace. I felt very privileged to be on that stage since so many of my musical heroes have christened that stage.
Right. Let's connect this back to comics. For those of you who don't know, Lee's Palace is a bar and concert venue in Toronto. Yeah. And it is one of the central locations in Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Right. Speaking of Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel.
Right.
That is the spot where she performs
Black Sheep.
What's the name of Black Sheep?
The song is Black Sheep by Metric.
Montreal's Metric.
That's
and
right.
It's at Lee's Palace. So
that's right.
It all comes full circle. Okay.
Full circle. Siberia.
This is all. Yes, Siberia.
Siberia.
Anyway, stuff's going on. The X-Men ship gets dinged by Titanium Man on the ground, who is pinned. But of course, you can't really pin him for long because, like I mentioned before, Chekhov's Gremlin. You knew that Gremlin was coming back later in the story.
And that man
he pops out. And that face on him, oh my God, he's so pretty. If you're going to do a Titanium Man figure, you got to make a Gremlin who pops out.
I think you'd have to, yeah.
So luckily, he's the one who breaks the spell on Darkstar, brings her out of her Druidian state, the hypnosis, and they fix matters Anyway,
I think
they're gonna
Druidia is in
go.
Spaceballs. Isn't that the planet in Spaceballs?
It is.
Planet
I said
Druidia? You said
Druidian.
Druidian. So that would be like a
Druidia.
instead of
Yeah,
Druidia.
but that was all just so Mel Brooks could get in the joke about her being a Druish princess. That was all just to set up for that.
Oh man, that movie's the best.
Oh yeah, it is. It is completely. And I could go on and on about memories of that. Anyway, more talk about things that that have happened because of Magneto and why they deal with this. And yet they're still get us back to this where they're flying, and Dr. Druid is still back there. And like this drawing, that is not Silvestri. That is so Rubinstein. We're seeing more and more of his hand on certain drawings. Like that is Silvestri, but that Magneto just does not look like.
Druid is quietly passing gas in the back.
Nobody knows it's me.
Nobody knows.
This one, by the way, I've seen the pencils, not just the inks, but the pencils for this. Completely different rendering. He has his whole face in shadow, and that's just what Silvestri wanted, and Rubinstein said no. Anyway, everyone's got to do more yakking, and they got to figure it all out. How are they going to do? What are they going to do? How are they going to find each other? And Dr. Anthony Druid says, "Hey, guys, I'm on the ship. Here's the location." And in that moment, of course, they are discovered. And they figure out he's there, and they talk. Rogue gives him a smooch in the forehead, takes his powers, and then knows everything that they know. And here, like extra clunky hair, because again, the cutting out of those color separations is just done at maximum speed, not for artistic aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And they realize again, there's other problems ahead. So just it's back and forth with these problems. They got to go to new locations, got to get away from everybody. They leave Dr. Druid alone in Singapore. It's adorable. And they fly in Darkstar's powers in like a big kind of bubble, which is cool. And then a huge chunk of the story takes place here in Singapore. It's neat to see. Thor's got his pose on. Black Knight is riding his sex toy. When I saw this today, I was like, "Oh no!" His like flying future steed. I do not remember the name of this thing, but I'm pretty sure I've seen ads for it.
No.
Oh no. Oh, my dog is outside howling and barking. He's anyway. Speaking of Thanos, there he is.
Yeah.
It all comes back. Thrashing.
Josh Brolin. All right.
Good old Josh. Joshy B.
Thrashing.
Again, like look at how small his head is compared to that body. Crazy. And there's a new character introduced who is now spying on them.
Yep.
And she's, Darkstar reporting Captain America spotted in Sector 5. Okay, all right. So something's happening there. I guess that's Darkstar in disguise.
I guess.
And there's Vanguard in disguise, or he's just wearing a white shirt or white jacket. And they spot Havoc. But walking around Singapore. And just as Vanguard is gonna approach, Wolverine gets hold of him and is about to kick his ass. It doesn't go well for anybody. But yeah, he uses his powers and sends him flying. Sends Wolverine flying. Eventually Rogue walks up incognito, like, "Oh man, oh you poor man, did those hoodlums hurt you?" And she gives him a smooch and then bursts out of her civilian clothing to reveal the black unitard underneath. But they now know what the other guys are up to. They know that they've arranged for a Dutch freighter to get them out of Singapore. So they're running to the Dutch freighter, and Vanguard says a freighter. Okay, he knows. But anyway, off they go to the freighter without attracting attention, hopefully, and they're hoping to make their way out to the next destination without being caught. And they don't know where Magneto's at in terms of his emotional state. But he has something in mind. They're trying to hide why he wanted that helmet so badly. Do you want to try and explain what he wanted his helmet for? I don't know if you're able to.
Well, so in issue 2, they talk about how he has inserted technology from Asteroid M into the helmet which will allow him to be unstoppable in some way.
Yes, it's called his atomic steed. Oh no! Oh, they did.
By the way, the Dutch freighter sounds like something on Urban Dictionary.
I know that they're the atomic steed. I know that Hawkeye's like Sky Sled or whatever.
Sky Jet thing.
I know his thing, and I have the new Marvel Legends ones. I think you do too, win or lose. But I don't remember the atomic steed from Toy Biz. That is, come on, guys, that's a sex toy, isn't it? So how will it make him unstoppable? Do you know?
Well, I don't know if they've explained it yet, but the idea is he can manipulate the minds of the world to erase prejudice against mutants.
So this one feels like a ridiculous. Okay, they've got the MacGuffin of like, can he wants something off the island. He's got his helmet. He's got the tech in it, but yeah, this idea that it now suddenly grants him psychic powers to change. What's it? 3 billion people's, 4 billion people's minds at the time, is just preposterous. Considering he's not a telepath, and it feels like it's out of nowhere. It feels very unearned as a prize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That he can eliminate prejudice toward mutants. Okay, sure. Let's go with that. The X-Men are all worried that Magneto is still tempted by villainy, that he wants some sort of tool for revenge. Of course, the Avengers believe that he is still evil. Magneto seems to be unsure most of the time in this comic book anyway. Yeah, they find him on the freighter. Here comes those Soviet guys. And Wolverine doesn't like it. So here is the law. Yeah, Wolverine, you're overboard. Cool. Havoc is going pure white on his assault. There's a lot of loyalty for the X-Men toward Magneto, whether it's earned or unearned. But again, the schmoz continues. The Hasbro Sky Cycle came with Hawkeye. That's the one that I know of. But wow, the Atomic Steed came with the original. That is awesome. I want that toy. The Atomic Steed. Wolverine coming up the side. That's cool.
Yeah, and then just gutting Titanium, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And not knowing that there's a little dude in there. Just going right for the throat or upper chest. Maybe he doesn't know there's a little dude in there and he can hear what heartbeat is. Yeah, he can smell him. There you go. You could have killed me. Anyway, Storm fights the bear finally. Again, these panels are starting to look a little bit rushed, I have to admit. They're looking a little sloppy. And that's fine, but accidentally Crimson Dynamo blows a hole inside the ship. And we always know what happens when there are innocent lives at stake. The heroes band together. And so they've put their animosity aside. Captain Marvel is helping. You see She-Hulk and Black Knight are working together. These two are like, we've got to save these people, right? Let's do this. So they put their animosity aside as well. The bear. She helps the bear. She-Hulk's doing the lifting. That's adorable.
And then she does a nice little quip there.
Yep. And he didn't want to change into a human because he says, I am vulnerable this way. And she was like, no kidding. Yeah, she's always been cheeky, which is good. Part of the fun. And yet, everyone gets rescued. I don't know what the loss of life is. There's Anthony Druid doing something. Looking very superheroic. We have to get the men out of here. I think they saved just about everybody.
I think so.
I feel like this back of the Quinjet is taken from a Star Destroyer.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Looks like anyway. So yeah, it feels like, okay, what are we doing now? Are we still fighting? Is Magneto even there? Or he's gone? Magneto had left the ship long before. So they're still chasing Magneto. The X-Men are here. The Avengers are here. They try to come to some consensus. But yep, back to Singapore. What's going on, dude? Dragging this out. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So that's issues 1 through 3, and
Could have
then
been
the
done in
big
3.
change.
Could have been maybe done in 2. Could have been 3. And now we got
Probably.
But
now here's
all
the
the
big
floating
change.
heads. Floating heads issue. Alert.
So I have a soft spot for floating heads. This covers them by Keith Pollard. And this issue now has a new writer. So Roger Stern is out. And Marc Silvestri is out. And in place, we get Tom DeFalco as writer co-plotter.
Okay.
Keith Pollard on pencil breakdowns. So it's going to be less work, more toward Joseph Rubinstein on finished art. We also get plots by Jim Shooter, who's coming into let's get this done. So he's getting a credit there as well. 2 editors, which I think we saw in the other ones, the Avengers editor and the X-Men editor. We have some additional inking by Bob McLeod, Al Williamson, and Alan Milgram. So Alan Milgram being a guy, and Bob Milgram, I think all 3 of these guys are just on staff. They're over at Marvel in the bullpen. But here's the behind the scenes as to why this happened.
Okay.
Roger Stern wants to have Magneto go full heel turn. He wants Magneto to be the big bad by the end of this series. And that's what he scripted. And when editorial, probably coming from, I'm going to say, Chris Claremont and Ann Nocenti saying Magneto, he's on a different trajectory. He cannot go big bad.
Yeah.
He's on a redemption arc. Roger Stern has his ideas how he wants this to go. Jim Shooter doesn't budge. They bring in a new writer because Roger Stern quits. He says he won't do the 4th issue unless they do it his way. Oh. So he's out. Now, why is Silvestri out? I don't know. Maybe it is because he's now gotten the gig over the X-Men and he's sided with Chris Claremont. Maybe he has no side on it at all, but he's just out because they wanted a bit of a clean sweep. Or to clean the house, I should say. Maybe he ran out of time because he has other duties and just doesn't have the time to do 28 pages, which is what this one is. It's not 22, not 24.
Wow.
But boy, oh boy, is a lot of it very rote. Here we get characters standing around. A lot of characters standing around with not dynamic posing, not interesting angles. X-Men are captured or have surrendered. But I find a lot of this is just like Marvel Comics in the 80s. Nothing special. Magneto walking through the streets. And he, just to talk plot, he comes across, he's exposed by this tourist who sees him as the Mutie and try and catch him, but he meets Magneto, this way, hurry. He meets some, a young person who reveres him. But this is fine comics, nothing wrong here. It just isn't Marc Silvestri.
Right.
There's this group of mutants in Singapore who one of them is called Crawler. Crawler's up on the wall. And they think Magneto is sort of the savior of the people. And it reminds me very much of Mystique in X-Men Apocalypse, where they think she's a hero of the people kind of thing.
Mm.
She's the one that fought back and fights for mutantdom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Time to watch that movie again. No, don't do it.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, Magneto goes with this group. This guy's known as the Light. I wonder who stole that for Group of 7, A Most Secret Tale.
Woohoo! Not this guy.
You did, sir.
That's right. This is where I got the inspiration.
In the Galleria, there's this guy. Yeah, he's called the Light. And he wants to know, is this really Magneto? Are you really the hero of all mutantdom? Or are you somebody else? And here, I actually think he looks kind of cool. In a classic way.
It's a good pose.
Yeah. So, hail to the glorious one. All these people really believe Magneto's going to help mutant kind. And they want to serve him. And Tang.
You want to specifically serve Tang to him.
Yes. But through one wall comes the military to hit Magneto, to get him, kill that kid, kill a bunch of other people. Magneto is unhappy.
Yeah, if you look at that bottom panel of Magneto with that person in his arms, like she was shot in the head.
Yes, there is a splorch.
Yeah.
Then again, it could be this T on her head.
I guess.
This feels like a very Jack Kirby panel to me, but it just feels like an older generation of comics. This is great though, but also does feel older. But it's a really, really strong panel and some inspired coloring too, which looks great. He melts the guns right out of those guys' hands, which is very cool. If you told me this was from the 70s, I would have believed you. Just like I said, feels from a different generation. Whereas Silvestri is moving things forward in comics. X-Men are no longer going to stay in this armored band. They don't want to be captives anymore. They get moving. So, like this, very stiff. It's just fine. Like, no problem, just very stiff.
Right.
And again, more talking. Hey, Avengers, do your duty. Sure. So this little girl, he's talking about what he's going to do with his ultimate weapon. Pity the world, little one. From this moment on, it will never be the same again. Because Magneto's going to use his telepathy powers amplified by this helmet, and he's going to take away all prejudice. This really seems weird. Again, they find each other, and now his telepathy is on. Because, he has this power, right?
Right. We all knew that.
Yeah. It's Magneto, and he's exerting some kind of powerful telepathic control over us. I can't move. So he has Xavier's power to freeze people and get a voice in their heads. Like, if you told me that, I don't know, I need another piece to this.
Yeah.
Where maybe he had a replicant of Xavier made by the Shi'ar with his powers. I don't know. Something. And he's like combined technologies to make this, because I don't think this is just something that's lingering around. Great Captain America here, by the way. Could be a good Wolverine, because that's pretty intense and monstrous. Anyway, he says, okay, you never had mental powers like this before. You must have found something on that asteroid base of yours, which crashed into Kampuchea. You are quite perceptive, Captain. I did recover certain circuitry which, when combined with my own magnetic powers, allows me to completely dominate any and every living mind I choose. Oh, really? That's the circuitry you found.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then he says, I never used the circuitry before because Professor Charles Xavier, the former leader of the X-Men, was a telepath powerful enough to block its effects. But alas, Xavier is no longer on this planet. So the Light wants him to enslave all humankind. And Magneto says, no, I'm not going to do that. But he offers Cap a chance to say his opinion. Cap says, no, man. Everyone should have the right to make up their own mind, even if they are a bigot. I believe in the sanctity of the individual. Which, by the way, ties into Civil War beautifully. He says, destroy that helmet before it's too late. No man was meant to wield such absolute power. I don't mind that as a thing. Like, that Magneto is going to have absolute power, and that's part of the central conflict. But this idea that he just has this helmet out of nowhere, I would have almost preferred that it was like a magical item. Like
right,
imbued with Loki power and Shi'ar technology and something else, and like it's this amazing object, not just circuitry from Asteroid M. It's too vague. It has plot device power. So Michael says, isn't there some storylines where Magneto helps build Cerebro, or is that just in the movies? I think it's just in the movies. But I don't mind him helping build Cerebro, but Cerebro still has to get powered by a telepath. It amplifies, it doesn't generate. Anyway, he decides to destroy the helmet. He's like, no, I'll use it. On you, Captain. And he says, speak. Tell me your opinion now that I have totally eradicated any anti-mutant feelings you may have had. How do you do that, by the way? How do you isolate anti-mutant feelings?
Right.
It's kids' comics at that point. So Cap says it hasn't changed my mind. The same reasons. I still
think you're a dick.
I
Oh,
still think you're a dick. I don't think you should have this power. And he's like, no, it isn't possible. I've always believed that all humans secretly hated mutants. But you didn't have any anti-mutant feelings? You never did. You shamed me, Captain. And he destroys it.
yeah.
Isn't that the end?
Yeah, it should be.
Right. Destroys it. It's good. He did a heel turn, which is unfortunate. He shouldn't have ever attacked anybody, you know. Anyway, but now we have Ted Koppel and a court case. We're back to the court case. Here's Psylocke, and Longshot for some reason. They're touching hands. What's going on there, dude?
I did wonder about that. Strange, but
It's just an emotional connection.
yeah, I
That's
guess.
fine. He's quite childlike, right? Should
Right.
not be in a romantic relationship with anyone at this point, I think. Anyway, they go back to a court case, which they didn't have resolved, and there was never. This feels, again, out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of talking.
And it's a lot of talking for the rest of this. Captain America goes on the stand for some reason. The trial is a farce, Magneto thinks. And so Captain Marvel has to talk with him. They could have resolved it here. It would have been fine. It just goes on and on about that. Meanwhile, all those mutants that he loved before are completely destroyed. There's Crawler.
Yeah.
This is one of the weird things with comics of that time period is this skin color, this
Mhm.
gray. There's lots of people that get colored that gray, and it always looks awful. Anyway, that little girl dead.
Yeah.
So there's lots of anti-mutant sentiment, but Captain Marvel is sort of the one who bears witness to what's going on behind the scenes. And the people who are judging Magneto have decided that they want him to, they want there to be basically a race war, and they want humankind to win. And the way to do that is to let Magneto go and have humans retaliate.
Right.
And that's kind of how things end. It's just
Except
a weird,
to astrally project himself into the helmet.
because this feels like a different writer, and it's just going on and on and on. The helmet crashing through the bathroom window, and he goes into the mind of that judge and tries to again change his opinion, only to figure out that the guy who never was going to do that in the first place anyway. And it's just more talking, and they're all shocked, and they say, "Okay, now that you got off on the charges, look at how everyone outside is all upset. What have I done? What have I done?"
Yeah.
So humans hate the mutants even more by the end of that. And there's that little thing.
And then, yeah, that which should have been in the comic.
Yeah. And there's John Ratzenberger.
Nice.
Cliffy boy. Really weird ending.
Totally weird ending.
I would have preferred, just for the sake, whether I agree with the story or not, I would have preferred if they had let Roger Stern do the thing he wanted to do, and at least get to see Marc Silvestri finish what he started.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it really does end with a thud. I mean, it's a crossover. It's not. It's an enjoyable storyline until, okay, now we're just going to end it in a comic and a half of talking in court proceedings. Like,
yeah, it was weird.
And Magneto's like omnipotent powers. So like, what is going on?
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, maybe if they had to give him a different helmet, again, like visually different something. It just, to me, that ending really falls flat. And I really enjoyed the fighting in the first two, but it just kept happening. They would keep finding each other and fight.
Yeah.
And the fights stopped having any consequence.
Yeah.
It might have been cool also maybe if against the Soviet super soldiers, the X-Men and Avengers decided to work together in smaller groups, but like play with that dynamic. So let's just say She-Hulk and Wolverine
Yeah.
they have to do this side quest, and Thor and Storm have to, and she's depowered, whatever. They have to do that side quest, and they have that tension because she wants her, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there's other ways you could go to make them have to stop Magneto if he's gonna go big bad. You also could have a get out of jail free card in it where Magneto gets the helmet, and again, going with my heightened version of it, where it's alien or magical or whatever combined, and it's possessing him. So he gets, at the end of the series, gets to wipe the slate clean by saying, like, no, he rejects the power of the helmet.
Right.
He destroys it, so he's clear, but he's the one that they have to kind of fight throughout it, and they get to fight in fun arrangements where you get to see like these different combinations of characters. I think I just reworked this series and fixed it as far as I'm concerned. Who knows? Overall, I think it's just a good showcase for Silvestri's art. And that's all it means to me.
Yeah.
Boom.
Look at
that. Cool to see. Of course, this is definitely not the forum to see original art. You should look at it on your own screen. You can look it up yourself on the Google. Websites like Comic Art Fans and Heritage Auctions. You can find the links even just within a regular Google search. But seeing the double page spread is a pretty special thing from this time period. I love it. Also, this is those are Silvestri's really loose pencils.
Wow.
So he's leaving it really wide open. Like these are almost layouts or breakdowns, and you can see how much work Rubinstein is doing to finish those pages.
Yeah.
It has a lot of his flavor. But that first panel where he's got Magneto in shadow, and then you can see what Rubinstein decided to do. Like one reads as sinister, the other one just reads as kind of bland.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
But interesting to see nonetheless.
Yeah.
But so much work being done by Rubinstein.
Yeah.
But cool. Chris, do you know what that is?
4 issues in one episode.
True. So I'm going to ask you, I would like to bring a new segment into our show.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have a name for it yet, but the spirit of the segment is, what was the missing panel that you would have loved to have seen?
Oh.
And the idea, like we talked way, way, way back, maybe 3 years ago or more, there was a moment where there were a group of leprechauns that took Nightcrawler, helped Nightcrawler while they were in Cassidy Keep, and you and I joked that we would have loved to have seen a particular leprechaun named Padraig.
Might have been.
We wanted to see him go drinking with Logan afterwards.
Sure.
The two of them needed to go on a road trip, go to a pub together. But maybe there was a moment in this where you wish there had been perhaps a Dr. Druid moment.
Well, again, there's so many. We chatted a little bit. I kind of joked about Magneto's power set really, really kind of not being, from the Avengers perspective, not being a great thing to match up because Cap Shield, Thor's entire body, Crimson Dynamo, Titanium Man. Like I feel like what we're missing here is Magneto, really turning the tables on people. I would love.
It could have just been Magneto just hovering and just turning all the armored characters against everybody else.
Right. Just
slaughtering.
Right. Yeah. And I think the other, maybe a Dr. Druid would be great. It would have been great to maybe have him speak at the trial or something like, or to like use his mind powers to, I don't know, do something. But because he's in the first, then he disappears. He's like first 3 issues, and he plays all his critical roles of being the, moving the story forward. And then he kind of just disappears. The X-Men don't get much in this; they just kind of are there.
Yeah, it feels like in the last issue, it really was about not just Magneto and the trial, but also Captain Marvel being part of some of those conversations and bearing witness. Like you could have it where she is, if she's known as a particularly ethical or principled person, she can be there as a character that Magneto can't hurt and can't stop. And maybe she sees something and like she sees that there's good in him, and they just talk. Like
Right.
they have, when he's on the run, she can reach him and she can like physically get to him and say things like this isn't you. This isn't the you that I've read the journal, or I've seen the video,
Right.
or I've
Right.
heard you speak. I heard you speak to so and so. The thing you say that you want to be, that's not you, or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
it feels like the fourth issue, she is set up as a person who is his console in some way, or has his ear, and is able to
Yeah.
again transport from place to place, but it doesn't pay off.
For all the, for all the, the files, information, and abilities that the Avengers have, the fact that the last few years of the Magneto, like he hasn't even been this character for so long, it does feel like it's really like you're not, you know what I mean? Like you're not aware of any of this, or you haven't been keeping tabs on the X-Men to determine that like maybe this guy might have, you know what I mean? Like it's such a, you broke the law last time we tangled. You're a villain.
Right.
Now you're going down. It's like,
So this is something that the show did better, where
yeah,
they showed him committing acts of heroism and then choosing to go face the law, like which he does in the comics too. He goes with Freedom Force and goes and stands trial. But when he's there, he kind of he has a bit of a cleanse, where
yeah,
he has a moment where he can go, he can destroy everyone or not. And that was kind of cool. And then he does have another heel turn later on in the series and does another flip again, which is fine. But I will say, like, why I think that the Claremont vision is flawed. And I've been pumping the Claremont vision kind of since day one.
sure.
I had an epiphany today as to why maybe it doesn't take. Maybe why guys like Jim Lee, Bob Harris, and every other creator since like to put Magneto in the role of the perennial villain and dick. And that's because the function he served, the position he held as the X-Men's not just primary and original villain, but ideological opponent.
Right.
Xavier is the path of peace, coexistence. There are many other villains that came about while Magneto took a sidestep. You get Apocalypse, you get Mr. Sinister. You guys can name them all in the chat. All these villains that become like these alpha X-Men villains. But none of them have the ideological opposition to go tete-a-tete with Charles Xavier's dream, the way Magneto so perfectly does. Magneto is part brother, part lover, part antithesis of Professor X in some ways. But when he leaves that seat, no one else is there to fill it. There isn't a second. Like Mystique takes over leadership of the Brotherhood, but she's not at all
No.
his replacement ideologically. So she's self-serving, at least in the comic books. So I think that might be why you need Magneto as the villain, as the Omega to Xavier's Alpha, because there's no one else who can do that. They never wrote a new character or elevated another character to that role.
Right.
So the universe hates a vacuum, right? So he has to continuously fill that spot because there is no one capable. They never created a character capable of being that thing. And maybe you could have made it Xavier's son, like David Haller, Legion. Like, I don't mean do that with that character, but who might have been a good one would have, of course, been Xavier's twin. Because the closer you get to the more primal the relationship, the more personal the relationship, the more those things seem to take. That's why, like, the father-son, mother-daughter, those siblings, whatever it is, like, those really work as things that last. But Xavier's antithesis. Cassandra Nova was also just so evil, like no redeeming quality at all.
Yeah.
Except for those fingers through the eye. That was so sexy. Yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents as to why they have to keep putting Magneto back as the main guy, because there's no one better. But that's up to writers.
Sure is.
Write another character, I don't know. Any other thoughts?
Nah.
All right. So next week on the show, we will be covering Uncanny X-Men 121. Which,
221.
guys? Oh, sorry. I did that last week too. 221. Do you know whose first appearance that is?
Gambit.
No.
Is it Gambit?
I'll give you a clue.
Yeah.
It's a villain that I don't have any positive feelings about.
Okay.
And he has sharpened teeth for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But all you 90s readers love him for some reason.
Monsieur Sinistre.
Yeah. Next week is his first appearance.
Okay.
So that'll be very, very exciting to kind of bring him into the series. And I'm going to try my best. And Massimo, you can keep me in check. I'm going to try my best to view him with fresh eyes because I'm, reading the series in order. Maybe he'll be interesting this time. Maybe.
Maybe.
Keep me in check, everybody in the chat. Make me love this villain the way that so many of you do. And I'm really hoping that I will be able to find something beautiful about Mr. Sinister. But other than that, do you want to announce any appearances?
Yeah, we've got a couple coming up. Just looking at the dates now. But April 12th, I mean, yeah, there's nothing right on the horizon, but a couple months down the line, I'll be at Halton Hills Fan Fest, which is a library in Georgetown, Ontario, but an hour west. So I'll be part of that. And then in May, you and I are heading to La Belle Provence, going to Montreal Comic Arts Festival, which is always been good to us and is a great show. And heck, you don't need an excuse to visit Montreal in May, but we're going to have one anyway, and that's just doing comics. So be fun.
I can't wait for that.
So that's so far the two. But, we've got irons and different fires and trying to hear about other opportunities. So we'll see.
Also, there is, how do I say this? There is the possibility of, remember last we did Toying Around Toy-Con?
Yes.
There is probably the return of Toy-Con as well.
I would love to do that again.
Well, that is, I'm not sure exactly what day that's going to happen. I know that Kevin is still figuring it out, but he reached out to me and we were talking about it, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get to go to Toying Around's Toy-Con probably the end of March or early April, just in time for Kevin's birthday.
Nice.
And that would be a fun one to do. I know the last weekend in March for you is an emotionally loaded one toward the romance, sir.
It's more mid-ish, but we can get
Do I have the wrong date on my calendar?
20th? I don't know.
Well, it feels like you got married on the 20th?
No, I married on the 19th.
Maybe I had on the wrong day on my calendar. Anyway.
Danielle's birthday is the 20th, but
I was worried that maybe it would be like the first weekend. That's like the first Saturday after. It's like, oh no. Don't want to have that happen to Chris. We'll figure it out as soon as I hear from Kevin.
But I would be totally keen to do that. That was a lot of fun last year.
Yeah, but Danielle's birthday. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we'll figure it out. But keep your eyes out for Toying Around's Toy-Con. Just figuring out dates for that. So hopefully we'll do that one as well. Man, I can't wait for Montreal.
So much smoked meat. It's going to be so good.
So much.
So much.
I am essentially made of smoked meat. So anyway, that brings us to the end of another episode of Previously in X-Men. Thank you to my good buddy, writer of Group of Seven, A Most Secret Tale, and Peregrines, Chris Sanagan. Thank you so much, Chris. And you can find out more about our comics and upcoming appearances at group7comics.ca. Of course, that is the number 7 as displayed before you. And you can follow us at Group of Seven on Group of Seven Comics, on social media. Hey, I saw you join Blue Sky this week. What's going on?
Yeah, we just set up Group of Seven Comics on Blue Sky. So there you go. If that's something you're checking out, check us out there too.
I haven't figured out. I haven't been able to memorize what the handles are on Blue Sky yet. but it probably has the word Group of 7 comics in it.
It does have the word Group of 7 comics in it.
Yeah, that will be good. And besides that, please click like, of course, on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're up to 377 as of this afternoon. And share if you like. Throw a comment in
on the way
comment
to
sections
400.
below.
Come on.
On the way to 4,000. And look after yourselves. Stay well. Stay warm. Be kind to each other. And of course, as always, stay Xy. And thank you, Bub. We'll see you next week on Previously in X-Men.
Good night.
We love you. See you later, all. End stream, right? Here we go. Ending. Goodbye.